Welcome to another week in my life of reading. In this video, I picked a specific genre because I felt like I was falling into a reading slump. I've mainly been reading literary fiction and historical fiction with a tiny bit of romance, and I think I just needed a totally different genre to help me overcome this little slump. And it's been over a month since I've read fantasy, and I picked that genre because there are two newer releases that I was super excited to read, as well as one series that I've really been wanting to start for a long time. Now this is currently future me at the end of the week. Coming back to do an intro to this vlog because the first one was quite chaotic. I don't know where my brain was. So the books that we are going to read this week are firstly The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. I was so excited when I realized that Rachel Gillig had a book coming out in May because I recently read her Shepherd King series and I rated both of them 5 stars. They really got me back into the world of fantasy and got me excited to read again because I felt like a lot of fantasy series since ACOTAR, since Throne of Glass, felt very repetitive. And I know it's unfair to compare things to those books, but those were some of the books that got me back into reading fantasy. Rachel Gillig's way of just writing great gothic fantasies really just sucked me in. I think she's an incredible author and I am a huge fan. The next is a book that I've been hearing a lot about on BookTok. This is Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry, and this is her fantasy debut, if I'm not mistaken. This is a fantasy series where monsters exist and the people live essentially in fear of them. There's royalty because our main character is a princess. There's an arranged marriage, and this is supposed to be an enemies to lovers and a slow burn between her and one of the monster hunters. But I also bought it because of how gorgeous this copy is, to be honest. And then lastly is a series that is very beloved among a lot of my friends, and they just cannot believe that I haven't gotten into it. It's been on my TBR for years, and this is finally the week. The third book I'll be reading this week is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Going into this book, I watched the Shadow and Bone show on Netflix, and I was just super intrigued by the characters and the storyline. Obviously, it was unfinished since that show got canceled, which is so sad. So I'm super excited, but also very nervous to start this one. So those are the 3 books that I am reading in this weekly vlog to get myself out of this reading slump and get back into fantasy, which feels like home to me. So without further ado, let's get right into reading, and I can't wait to share with you guys what I thought about these books. Reading update on The Night and the Moth. I am loving being back inside Rachel Gillig's writing and just her brain. I wrote a little update on Goodreads last night that basically said reading another Rachel Gillig book feels like coming home if home was like a creepy cathedral. And I feel like that's how it is because somehow she's able to do creepy and cozy really well. I don't know. I think it's just maybe some side characters that are making it a little bit more lovable and lighthearted, even though it is quite a gothic tale. I'm on page 132 and it's getting really good. Just been presented with the mystery that's kind of happening in this book. And this also is labeled as a slow burn. I love a slow burn, but a lot of them are mislabeled. And I feel like this one is pretty accurate because so far I am over a third of the way through and I can't see how our main characters are going to warm to each other. So I feel like that's been really well done so far, but I'm excited to just keep reading. Guys, we need to talk about this book. I just finished The Night and the Moth, and I really enjoyed this book. Obviously, I've said this before, I'll say it again, anything that Rachel Gillig writes, I will read. I cannot believe this is only her 3rd book because I feel like the way that she writes is just so, I don't even know the word for it. She's just so good at what she does. She's so good at storytelling and world building. Her world building is incredible. The way that she describes settings makes you actually feel like you're there in the same spot. At the beginning of this book, she was describing this cathedral where a good part of this book takes place. I am convinced that everybody who's read this book is thinking of the same cathedral in their mind just because that's how good she is at describing this place. To give a bit of a recap about this story is about our main character who is referred to as Six for most of the book. And she is one of 6 diviners, which in this story is girls who can see visions from the gods of the future. The way that they see the future is really interesting, like the ritual that takes place in order for them to see it. The story and the rituals were so intricate. It makes me wonder how long it took Rachel to come up with this concept and write this book, because it's so complex. The story is a mystery, it's a fantasy, it's got elements of found family. There's like this ragtag group that they end up forming in order to solve this mystery. You just kind of start to love each one of the characters. There's what I would call a magical sidekick in this book, but is so much more than that. It's a talking gargoyle. Normally when there's magical sidekicks, specifically like animals or things like that talk, that's just always kind of turned me off a little bit because it's really cheesy. However, the way that Rachel did that in this book honestly topped tier. Like he was so much more than just a comedic relief. And I don't want to say too much more about that. It's important to the story. But I just really think that she just did such a great job at crafting this tale. I also loved that this story was a true enemies to lovers, slow burn, because a lot of books I found that say, oh, it's enemies to lovers, by chapter 5, they're like looking at each other in some type of a romantic way. And I feel like in this book, it wasn't until, man, like maybe the last quarter of the book that any of that romance starts to happen, of even them just like looking at each other with lingering looks and things like that. And I really appreciated that. Not a lot of people do that trope justice, and I really feel like this book did. Same thing with the slow burn. I remember everyone saying that Quicksilver was a slow burn, and they like kissed in chapter 12 or something like that. I'm like,
that's not a slow burn. That is not a slow burn.
It's just like the perfect gothic fairy tale. I would say it's kind of creepy, but it's not too creepy. I don't read horror. I don't like to be scared or creeped out in books, and I feel like she did it in a way. It was gothic, but it was still almost like had an element of coziness to it, just the way that she told it. There's an author on the back that described this book as falling into a strange dark dream, and that is exactly like what it was. I can't describe it better than that. I feel like there were a few plot twists in here, and I will say that I did anticipate them. However, when they came to happen in the book, I wasn't mad at that, because she did it in such a way that even though, yes, it was something that I thought was gonna happen, I just felt like it was so clever, and she just did that so well. Oh, babe, there's a bunny outside. Yeah. It's literally right there. Let me see if I can catch it on video. Oh my goodness, cute. Moving on to this rating, I decided to give this book 4.5 stars, which I'm really happy with, because this is one of my most anticipated reads, if not my most anticipated read for this year. I feel like it really, really lived up to the hype. For this video is Shield of Sparrows by Devaney Perry. I just started this book. I'm only about 20 pages into it, but so far it's really, really interesting. I normally don't love a book about royalty. I think it's a trope that's been done a lot, but that doesn't mean that it can't be done really well. So I'm really excited to just keep reading this book and see what I think about it. Like, it just has a lot of promise, and who knows, maybe I'll come back when I'm done with it and just eat my words, and that might be like one of my new favorite tropes. Without further ado, let's get reading. Halfway through the book. I've definitely read a lot today. I woke up really early and I got a good chunk of reading done, and then just in between, like in car rides as we've been doing stuff, I've been reading. So far, I'm really liking the book. It's definitely taking me a lot longer to read this book than it did The Night in the Moth. The story is really, really interesting. I love the element of having monsters in this book. Definitely also enemies to lovers, very slow burn. It's a little bit over halfway, and she's just realized that she has some type of feelings for him. Obviously, like I said, with The Night in the Moth, I love a slow burn. I'll be back when I finish this book to give you guys my official review, but so far so good. I'm really enjoying it. So I don't know if I'm having 5-star feelings. I feel like even where I'm at in the book right now, I just need to know more. So I think I'm gonna spend a bit more time reading and see where it goes from there. Okay guys, so it's been a a second since I filmed, but I did finish Shield of Sparrows and I really enjoyed this read. A few of the things that I really liked about it was the whole concept. I loved the fact that there was all of these different monsters that they were encountering and having to fight. I thought some of the settings that a lot of this took place in were really cool. She did a really good job at describing these places, because since these different countries are really facing a threat from these monsters, these cities were just built so different. They were really fortified against specific different monsters, and it was really cool to think about the thought process that she put behind that. Like, of course, they couldn't just live in a normal city. For example, one of the cities, the houses were like partially recessed, so you had to walk down into them, which was like helping protect them from a threat from above. Another city was pretty much built entirely in the trees, which in this edition, it shows you a bit of what that looks like. I don't know if you can tell that there's like houses in these trees. This book was a little over 500 pages, but I definitely felt like it felt longer than this. A lot was covered in this book. A lot of the journey that they were going on. Again, a lot of the descriptions of different cities. I think that this took place in 4 cities, and then you're getting descriptions of the places that you're passing through at the same time, which I feel like is a lot for a book to go through. I feel like generally most fantasy books start in one place and then end up in another place. So it was super interesting. There was a few twists in here, some which I enjoyed, some which I didn't. There was one twist specifically a little bit over halfway that I didn't love how it was handled, but it's also a trope that I don't enjoy. I would say that was like maybe a chapter or 2 that I didn't enjoy out of the entire book. I don't think it took away too much of it. There also was a few plot twists that I didn't see coming that I did really enjoy. This book is also, I think I mentioned this before, but this book is also very much enemies to lovers and very much a slow burn. I feel like it's really rare that, 2 books in one video we're getting that and we're getting it done well, because the main characters don't even get together until I would say like the last quarter of the book. I really liked the MMC. I liked that they were getting in arguments, but I wasn't hating him, because I feel like some books take it too far with enemies to lovers that I'm not sold on the love story at the end because of how horrible a guy was. This is following our main character, who is Odessa. She's one of 3 children born to her father, who they call the Golden King, but she is the oldest. Her 2 younger siblings are born of her stepmom, and so in the beginning of the book, she is very much the daughter that's kind of a bit pushed aside. All of the attention is going on to her sister May, who has been trained her whole life to be what they call a sparrow. There's this contract that exists in this book, in this world, that is an agreement between 5 different kingdoms, I believe. A treaty set in place to keep the kingdoms from fighting against each other, because they all really need each other. Each one of these kingdoms supplies something that the other kingdoms need. For example, Tura supplies lumber because it's a very forested area. Her home kingdom, I think, is called Roslo, and they provide a lot of like grains and different things like that. And so essentially what this treaty says is that every time a crown prince is born, when they reach of age, they will marry a princess from one of these other kingdoms. Odessa's sister May is being raised to be one of these sparrows, so she's going to be given to another kingdom. And at the beginning, you're kind of like, well, why is the oldest daughter being passed up for it? And that's something that I think is in the back of Odessa's mind. I don't think she wants to be the sparrow, but at the same time, she's kind of like, why didn't my dad trust me to learn to be a warrior and learn to be a spy. A spy is exactly what her dad wants his daughter May, who's going to be the sparrow, to be. He knows that one of his daughters is going to be married off to the Turin crown prince. In Tura, their main capital used to be a city, I think, called Paris. After a migration of these specific monsters that are mentioned throughout the whole book, but you don't see until the end. And by the way, that's not a spoiler because it's built up through the entire book. This specific monster that everyone's afraid of migrates every 30 years and just decimates cities when they come, if you're not properly fortified. And so Turin's capital, Paris, had gotten decimated. And so all the other kingdoms knew that they had moved their capital to this place called Olisaria, but nobody knew where it was. Like, it's very secretive, the entire book. And so May was supposed to find out where Olisaria is, because there's something that the dad, the Golden King, wants from Olisaria, but he needs information to get there. So obviously when the Turin crown prince comes, first of all, he doesn't speak. So the monster hunter that is known throughout all of the lands, who they refer to as the Guardian is essentially a spokesperson for this crown prince who can't speak. And so he speaks for him and says that they actually want Odessa. They don't want May, and that they won't take May at all. And so he's wanting Odessa to learn where Olisaria is, learn all these things about the Turns, and write it back. And so Odessa's like holding this in the back of her mind as she's being taken away on this ship to sail across this river to go to Tura. And right off of the bat, she's heard horrific things about the Guardian. She doesn't really trust the Turns. They're very warrior-like people. They seem the most equipped to fight these monsters. And so during this book, she is kind of stuck between
the fact that she is now married to this crown prince, her hatred and frustration towards the guardian, but also she finds him like really intriguing. So it's kind of a will they, won't they, because she's also married to the other guy. But also she's struggling with trying to figure out things about this capital city that everyone's being so secretive about. Literally, if she brings it up with other turns, they straight up walk away and they like look at her suspiciously.
It's a really, really interesting world. I feel like a very interesting book that Devaney's created. I can't believe that this is her first foray into fantasy because I think she did a really, really good job. As I was reading this book, I was so certain that it was just going to be a solid 4 stars, like a good read, not something that I was raving about until the end. I feel like the last scene just gripped me. It pulled on all the right strings that I needed, I feel like. And I just always appreciate an author who isn't afraid to like get her hands dirty and have certain characters potentially get hurt. I just really, really appreciated the lengths she was going to really set the scene and make this believable, because again, this is like a harsh world that these characters live in because they're always under threat of attack from these really brutal monsters who don't discern between men, women, children. So that last scene really hooked me, and I cannot wait for the next book and to see how this works out. I'm a little bit torn at this point because I feel like I might end up giving this book a 4.5. Like, the book made it so close to being a 5-star for me, so I think that that's the rating that I'm gonna go with. It definitely takes a lot more brain power and a lot more time to read. Really, really like this book, and I would highly recommend it if you're looking for a fantasy. It also just looks so beautiful displayed. I've been so excited to just slide this in here, and as I spin it, I get to see like the front and the side of it. I did start 6 of Crows yesterday, and I'm hoping that I can read it in the next 2 days and wrap up this video. Definitely want to finish it before this weekend. This weekend finishes up May, and I realized that there's another book that I forgot about reading that I put on my May TBR. So I want to finish 6 of Crows first and then get into that, but we'll see how it happens. Don't want to put too much pressure on myself, but I also just really want to finish the book, so we'll see. So without further ado, let's get reading. This book is getting so good. I feel like I am absolutely hooked. I love how it's told in so many different perspectives. I'm just starting chapter 15. I love how in each chapter and each different point of view, you're also getting a backstory that's making these characters seem so real and is making me so invested in their stories. I just ended up getting the audio on Audible because I had a credit and I just been sitting there for a while and I wasn't sure what to use it on. I knew that I needed to get some things done, but I really wanted to keep reading. This is my way of doing both. So I'm gonna keep listening to it while I keep cleaning up my office, putting together some bookshelves, which is so exciting. Seriously, so happy right now. I've been working on this for way too long, honestly hours. My back is absolutely killing me, but I made some real progress on 6 of Crows today. Like, I'm so happy with it. And I am flying through it in the audio. It's so interesting. Since there's 6 different people that are giving their perspectives, I think it's so cool that they have 6 different audio narrators. It's giving me 5-star feelings, guys. The first book in this vlog that's been giving me that. Like, it's perfection. I'm absolutely loving the story, and I'm just so intrigued to keep going. I'm gonna wrap up in here with my audiobook as soon as it finishes this chapter, and then I will probably go and sit on the couch and read my physical copy because it's only 8:30 and normally I don't go to bed till like 10:30, so I have a good amount of time. We'll see what I can get done. I just finished 6 of Crows, and wow, like, I can't even believe how good this story was. I seriously, like I said earlier, I cannot think of one single thing that needed to be edited or that I wished didn't happen or that I didn't like. I absolutely loved this story. It is just incredible. There's so much world building. I just feel like the world building was so good. I loved all of the backstories to each one of the characters. I feel like about 40% of this book was their stories, and then the rest was where they were at now, but I never felt like it was too much. Like I couldn't get enough of these characters, of their backstories, of their lives, and I am just absolutely obsessed. I don't know what else to say. This book follows 6 different people who join together to perform this heist. We have Kaz, the leader. He's this dark, broody character that he's essentially almost like a mob boss, like a leader of a gang. Technically works underneath the actual gang's leader, but he's really just calling all the shots and the other guy isn't even noticing. Then we have Inej, who they call the Wraith, and she is just like this silent, I don't want to say assassin, that's not primarily her job, but she is able to get into places that other people can't and without anybody seeing her coming, so she collects secrets and she works for Kaz. Then we have Nina, who is a heartrender. She has this magical ability essentially to control just different functions of the human body. We have Matthias, who is a Druskele. He's in prison and Nina's trying to get him out, and essentially Druskele hate the Grisha, which anybody with magical abilities like Heartrender, which Nina is their enemy. The Druskele just look at the Grisha as less than, as other beings who shouldn't have the power they have. Then we have Jesper, who is the sharpshooter, the comedic relief, and a gambler. And we also have Wylan, who's the last of our 6, who is a demolition expert, but is also there as a bit of leverage against the person who is hiring them to break into this place to break somebody out. And they're trying to break this person out because they have created this drug that when given to the Grisha makes their powers so much stronger. They're able to do things they shouldn't be able to do, but it's highly addictive and ends up killing them. So they're trying to break this person out. This person is at the heart of the Fjerdan capital, which is where all of the Druskele go. So it's this heavily fortified area and they're all working together to break them out. The story is just impeccable. I don't know how else to say it other than it's so good. The plot is so intricate. I'm convinced that this author is a genius because how did they come up with it? Anyway, I'm so excited to start Crooked Kingdom. Like, I'm so tempted to just jump right in. I absolutely adored the audiobook because the audiobook had all of these different characters' voices. Like, every single perspective was told with a different voice. And it was just so good. I'm just obsessed with Nina and Matthias, and I love all of these characters, but their story might be my favorite. Anyways, I'm so excited to go into Crooked Kingdom. I'm trying to decide if I just go straight into it because I'm riding this high, or if I read something before it. We'll see on that one. But it's so good. Easiest 5 stars I've given in a while. This book was incredible. I truly think that there's something in this book for everybody. There is 0 spice in this book, which I hope doesn't dissuade anybody because this story is so compelling and the relationships are so good that it doesn't even need it. It's so good. That does wrap up this fantasy reading vlog. As a little recap, first we read The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig, which I loved so much I ended up going back to get the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition with the beautiful sprayed edges. This book is perfect for people who are looking for a fantasy romance that is different than anything they've really ever read. 4.5 out of 5 stars for me, and I will definitely be recommending it to anybody. Next, we read Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. This is perfect for people who love reading about monsters. Perfect monster hunting fantasy romance. If you like reading books that have like a royalty aspect, this would be a good one. Another true enemies to lovers that takes a lot of different twists and turns. And then lastly, obviously we read 6 of Crows, which is the first 5-star book in this reading vlog. So good. I just have nothing else to say. I'm seriously so happy with all the books that we read this week. Honestly, it makes me want to continue on a fantasy kick. I really liked this reading vlog having like a theme. I don't know, it really made me want to keep reading. I can't wait to do another one. Well, maybe we'll do like anticipated summer books for my next reading vlog. Let me know if you like that idea. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe. I would love to have you here. If you have a specific book you'd like me to read and review next, please let me know. Other than that, I will see you in my next video, which is going to be the 26 books that I want to read before 2026. I will see you guys next time. Bye!